My name is Sonia Lopez. I am with the Ventura County Department of Child Support Services. I've been with this department for over 20 years, and I am going to walk you through the National Medical Support Notice. So first things first, let's talk about what are our legal obligations, which really is what are our responsibilities as your local child support agency. Our responsibilities are to obtain orders for health insurance on all our orders. Now, many times when anyone thinks of our department, they think of the child support component, the child support orders that we obtain, but we are also required to establish health insurance orders for all the children. Our other obligation is obviously to serve the order on the employer, which this is going to be via the National Medical Support Order Notice. We also provide the PRS, who is the parent receiving support, with the health insurance information once you provide it to us. And lastly, we are tasked with enforcing the health insurance order up until the child emancipates and we close our case. Now, what types of medical support are we seeking to establish? This could be anything from medical, dental, vision, prescription, mental health, and we understand that the policies vary. They could be in a combined plan or they could be separate policies, and that is okay, but this is what we're seeking when we send the National Medical Support Notice. So let's talk about your obligations as far as what are your responsibilities when you get this packet. You are to allow enrollment of the health insurance without regard to open enrollment restrictions. And this is going to be different. It's not one of those situations where we have to wait to that specific time of year to enroll the children. Remember, this is via court order. So you are supposed to enroll the children once you receive that NIMSIN. You're also responsible for deducting the costs of the health insurance in addition to the child support amount, again, without exceeding the 50% of the net rule, and we'll go over that in a bit. And you're also responsible to notify the local child support agency if your 50% withholding limitations prevent the implementation of the health insurance order. Some things that you cannot do. So again, employers cannot deny enrollment because the child was born outside the marriage, because the child was not claimed as a dependent on tax returns, or because the child or children does not reside with the employee. Again, this is not your normal situation when you're adding your family to health insurance or some people that live in your household. This is via court order, so that the situation is a little bit different. And employers cannot terminate the coverage once established unless the health insurance is no longer going to be offered for any employer. So something's changing in your company, or you receive a NIMSIN termination from our office. That would be the only time you actually would be terminating the order. So let's talk about the forms. As we mentioned in the IWO section, you do get a wide variety of forms, and I will apologize in advance. Many of our forms get printed in overnight batch. What that means is all these forms get placed in an envelope. They're not necessarily stapled together in the packets how they belong. So I want to make sure that you have a good understanding of the packets and how to put them together. So let's talk about all of the forms that you receive. In your National Medical Support Notice packet, you're going to get your cover letter. This one's really important. It's going to give you all the information you need. The subject line is going to tell you what documents are enclosed, and many of our forms look the same. There may be one little box that is different, that it could be a new form or an amended form or a termination. So it's important to look at the cover letter and the information that it gives you. It's also going to have your employee information, your case information if you need to reach us, also your instructions and legal requirements that we're going over right now. All of this is outlined in the cover letter. You're also going to get the National Medical Support Notice Part A and B, and you're also going to get 2 more forms on there, which is the Statement of Obligors' Rights and Procedures regarding NIMSIN. So now I'm going to walk you through how to put these packets together. So the first package you're going to put together is actually your copy. This could go in your employee file. That part is going to have the National Medical Support Notice Part A. It's going to have the limitations on withholding, which actually gives you information on that 50% limit that we've been speaking about. The employer response, this is a form that you could actually use to communicate with us to let us know you've received the NIMSIN. And then the instructions to employer, which is 2 pages long. The next packet that you're going to be putting together is your packet for your plan administrator. Now, this is going to go to HR or payroll or whoever is actually responsible in your company for enrolling the children on the health insurance. They are going to get the National Medical Support Notice Part B. They're going to get the plan administrator response and then the instructions to plan administrator, which is 3 pages. I do want to point out Plan B discloses confidential information, so you want to make sure you're giving the right part to the appropriate person. And let's go to the next slide and I'll show you what I mean. So this is an example of the National Medical Support Notice Part A. Part A and Part B look identical, so you could easily confuse these, but I want to point you to the bottom left-hand section of this form where it has the child or children's information. You're going to see the Social Security number field. In the NIMSIN Part A, that information is has X's on part of the social, so you're not disclosing personal information. NIMSIN Part B discloses the full social, and that is because we understand that your plan administrators need that information to add the child or children to the health insurance. So again, it's just very important you pay attention to which NIMSIN you're using when you're putting your packets together. Now, let's talk a little bit about time frame. So you receive your packet. Now, what are you supposed to do? Within 10 business days, you have to notify your employee of the receipt of the NIMSIN. And how do you do this? You're going to provide them with their own packet. And this, again, it's outlined in the cover letter, but we're going to go over it. You're going to provide them with the NIMSIN Part A. Again, that's the one that has the Social Security number with X's on it. You want to make sure you give Part A and not Part B. They're also going to get their Statement of Obligors' Rights and Procedures regarding the National Medical Support Notice. This is Form DCSS 0361, and this was included as part of your packet. The other form that they need to receive is the Request and Notice of Hearing regarding health insurance assignment, and also the instructions for that. I listed both form numbers on there. This is not included on your packet, but it is available online for you to get and print it. And I'm putting the link below of where you obtain that, and we're also going to walk you through that website in another portion of the presentation. So within 20 business days after receiving the National Medical Support Notice, you need to forward the NIMSIN for enrollment. That means you're forwarding the NIMSIN Part B packet to the healthcare administrator to enroll the child or children. And you also, within 20 business days, need to respond to us and let us know that you have done this. You'll be doing that by sending us the employer response form. And again, that was included in your packet. If your employee is no longer employed, that is also the form that you would use to give us that information. And also please provide the last information you have on your employee, address, phone number, any of that information so we can try to reach out to them. So after you've received the NIMSIN, you've notified your employer, you sent it to your plan administrator. Now within 40 business days of all of this happening, you must provide the health insurance coverage information to your local child support agency. So within 40 business days of receipt of the NIMSIN, health insurance needs to be in place. The information that we're going to need is, of course, the health insurance company name, the claims address, the phone number, policy number, and the members covered. And again, we always have a form where you could provide us all the information that we need. And the form that you could use for this information is the health insurance information form. I've listed the number on there, and this is one of those forms that does not come in your packet, but is available online. So once everything is in place, a child or children have been enrolled. Once that is in place, and the health insurance lapses for whatever reason, or the employee departs and is no longer there, you do need to notify us within 10 business days of that lapse in health insurance. We do need to know the date that the health insurance ended, the reason for the lapse, and if it happens to be temporary, please let us know when it's going to resume. And again, the form that you could use to notify us of this change is a termination of benefits / employment notice, which is available online. And we do ask you that you notify us of this right away, simply because we have to notify the other party that health insurance is no longer in place. So it's very important. So let's talk a little bit about the penalty of non-compliance. Any employer who willfully fails to comply with the NIMSIN is liable to the parent order to receive support, also known as PRS, for the amount incurred in healthcare services that would have otherwise been covered by health insurance. Failure to comply is punishable by contempt. Now, I know this is not going to happen to anyone here because you are all here to learn how to implement the National Medical Support Notice, but I do have to just let you know there is a penalty of non-compliance. So let's talk now a little bit further about the 50% withholding limit. So deducting costs of the health insurance coverage in addition to the child support amount cannot exceed 50% of the employee's net disposable income. If that does happen, we do ask that you notify your local LCSA if those limitations are preventing the enrollment of the health insurance. And let's go over a few examples. So let's say that you've done the calculation that Michael went over as far as to determine what is the net disposable income that you can use. So after all the mandatory deductions, your employee has $1,200 available. So again, if we do that by 50%, the actual amount that you can use for the child support and health insurance obligations is $600. So let's say that we have an order for $400 in child support plus the health insurance cost of $100. That totals $500. In this scenario, the employer would be implementing both the income withholding order and the national medical support order because it falls under that 50% threshold. Now let's look at another example. Same disposable income, just to keep it clear. So this particular order, though, is $700 a month plus your $100 cost for monthly health insurance. So if you were to deduct both, that would be a total of $800, which exceeds the 50% limit. So we cannot implement both. In this situation, you would actually be allocating $600, which is the maximum you could deduct. And that is all that the LCSA would be receiving. We do ask you that you contact us to let us know why the obligations are not being met. If you don't contact us, chances are that we will reach out to you to find out. But we cannot exceed that 50% limit. So in this obligation, you would only be sending $600. So let's go over one more example. So again, same net, the disposable income, which is $600. Your child support amount is $400. And this is an employee that doesn't have a package for the health insurance, so it's different plans. So the medical insurance cost is $175, the dental insurance cost is $80, and the vision insurance cost is $25. So that would be a total of $680. Again, our limit is $600. So as an employer, you would be allocating $400 towards your child support, $175 towards the medical insurance cost. We do not have enough to add the dental insurance, but vision coverage is allowed because that gets us at the $600 maximum limit. So that is what we would be doing on this case, the child support amount, medical insurance, and vision only. And again, you can communicate with us and just let us know this is what we did. We weren't able to add dental, but we've implemented all these plans. So let's talk a little bit about reasonable health insurance. So after you've done your 50% limit calculation, you determine that it meets the criteria that you can make all these deductions and add health insurance, but your employee is still telling you, I can't afford this is too much. In those situations, we do ask you that you refer the employee to us because Family Code Section 3551A2 does define health insurance as reasonable if the cost does not exceed 5% of the obligor's gross income. Now, I don't want you to get confused. Your portion where you're determining the 50% threshold is on the disposable income. This calculation is actually something that's done by our department. If a parent feels that it's too expensive and they can't afford the health insurance, they could contact us and we do a different calculation just to determine if it's reasonable per this family code section. The information that we need you to provide to your employee is we're going to need the employee's monthly gross earnings, which usually is a check stub. We need the health insurance cost for employee self and the health insurance cost for the employee plus the family. And what we do is determine the difference and then determine if it's within that 5% of the gross income. Again, this is a completely different calculation done by our department. But if you have an employee that has a concern about the cost of the health insurance, even though it's within the 50% limit, please do refer them to us. And let's talk about priority of deductions. Again, we already went over this in the income withholding order section. I'm just going to go over it again. I just broke it down one step further. So first priority is always going to be towards current child support and then current spousal support. We have, of course, the health insurance premiums and then any arrears, whether it's child support or spousal support, those will get paid at the end. It's important to note that child support deductions always take priority over other agency garnishments. A possible exception to this would be like IRS tax liens.